which is this, Rob.
Uh-oh.
It's Friday. It's Friday. That means it's Mandalorian Day.
Or as I like to say, Mandalorian morning.
That's a good one, Mandalorian
I
morning.
get up, I feed the dogs, I brew the coffee, and then Elizabeth and I, beginning at like 6:30, watch The Mandalorian.
I had trouble getting to sleep last night. So I was still awake at like around 1 a.m. just laying in bed. And so I thought, you know what? I just grabbed my iPad, opened the Disney Plus app just to see if it was there. It was there. So I'm like,
It's
all right.
the longest episode.
And it was the longest maybe a little bit shorter than the original. I'm not sure. But it was,
I don't think so. I think it was a little longer.
Well, if it wasn't one of the longest, then it was the longest one. And I sat down. I can't remember. What was the name of the episode? I can't remember. Was it Gun? No, that was the last one. I can't remember. But at any rate, I got to tell you, last week's episode was the first episode I truly did not like. I did not like last week's episode at all. To me, it didn't do anything to increase our understanding of the Mandalorian himself, to evolve the relationships between any of them, to give us any further background, or further the storyline. It's okay. You don't have to do all those things in every episode. You don't. But you got to do at least one of those things in an episode to make it quasi-interesting. They went right back to it here. They didn't miss a beat after the last one. They went right back into it. This is an episode that gives us a little bit better understanding of the galaxy. It gives us more of a picture of the Mandalorian's background, a little bit more into who and what he is. Of course, you got to have a little bit of dose of Baby Yoda in there as well. So they did that, but actually Baby Yoda involved in a little bit of a Home Alone sequence going on. I'm not going to give away we're not going to go drastic spoilers here, but you know, and also some very pleasant cameos. You know, most of you guys won't even recognize them, but 3 of the directors of Mandalorian, including Dave Filoni, Deborah Chow, and Femi Yua, are actually in this episode, as well as a face you may not recognize, but a voice you will recognize is also in this as well. Good action, neat characters. I don't know that it was my favorite episode of Mandalorian so far, Rob. But for me, it was a really nice breath of fresh air, it getting back on the horse. Because, you know, once a show starts going bad, it's hard to recover from that. Momentum's a tough thing to break. And I really felt like last week's episode was a throwaway episode. I was a little bit worried it might continue down that path. This one jumped right back on the horse for me, and away we go. Now, I already know one thing about this episode that you probably didn't like, although you and I haven't talked about it yet. But I know that sometimes you're not completely satisfied with how maybe Mando can sometimes fare in combat himself. Maybe sometimes he's not as dominant as we would like, but still, whatever. I like this. Oh, and it was great to see a face from Sons of Anarchy. It's great seeing Bobby from Sons of Anarchy pop up in there. That excited me. That made me feel good. Anyway, Rob, you had a chance to watch this latest episode of Mandalorian. What did you think?
Well, I really liked it because it touched on one of my favorite genres of film or story, which is men on a mission. You know, I love gathering a team of disparate people to accomplish some goal. And in this case, we had aliens and droids and men on missions and Twi'leks. And I thoroughly enjoyed that aspect, really. And you know what? I liked the action in this episode. I like what we got to see from The Mandalorian. I like what we got to see from everyone. There was a lot of funny stuff in it. It was action. My only criticism of the episode was the first 15 minutes had this breakneck pace that I'm like, all right, you know, I'm into this. I love what was going on. And then when they actually got to the mission part of it, it seemed like it suddenly slowed down, and I'm like, shouldn't you guys be moving a little faster? You know, it seemed, I thought the pacing, I had a pacing issue, but I understand it, but it just seems like, I think these episodes have a lot of walking in them, and like I've always said, I think people should run some more, especially when you have a ticking clock. That's something that has bothered me, that was very apparent. But on the other hand, really enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought it was beautifully directed. I liked the lore, the expansion of the Star Wars lore. We sort of found out a little bit more about the Star Wars universe post Return of the Jedi, which I thought was really cool. Like you said, it delved into the Mandalorian's past. And you know, now we're 6 episodes in. I think the idea that I've been waiting for some longer storyline to materialize was perhaps wrong-headed. No one told me that's how the story was going to go, but I'm so used to seeing episodic TV now. But what they're doing with this show is they're sort of touching on these old genres of old that were that we saw a lot. Overarching westerns, but then men on mission, whether it's the Wild Bunch, whether it's the Searchers, and really they're kind of rifling through the Western genre within the context of Star Wars. And I know we've said that before, but I'm really, now that I know that that's what they're doing, I'm sort of more open to it than I was at first, because I wanted it to be something else, and now I'm settled into what it actually is. So I really thought, like, okay, this was more like a Wild Bunch or a Dirty Dozen kind of an episode, and I'm like, sign me up, man. I'm in. And I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I particularly enjoyed the ending. Was very classical as far as the genre goes. I really enjoyed the ending, and it furthered the character as a character. We learned a lot about what kind of a person, if he is a person. There's a very funny joke about who might really be under the Mandalorian armor.
A little bit of classic canon references there.
That goes all the way back to the Phantom Menace, and I laughed out loud. And even Elizabeth was watching, and she laughed out loud, having just rewatched all the Star Wars movies. She thought that was also funny. She goes, "Wouldn't it be great if that were real?"
No.
And I said, "Not really. No.
Nope.
Don't ever say that aloud."
For those of you who've seen the episode, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Nope, that would not be real at all.
Not be good.
Question here is, guys, did you guys have a chance to watch this week's episode of Mandalorian? If so, jump on down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts on it. And one more.